Bootsy Barker Bites by Barbara Bautner and Peggy Rathman. My mother and Bootsy Barker's mother are best friends. When Mrs. Barker comes to visit, she always brings chocolate donuts, fresh strawberries, and Bootsy. First, we have a tea party. Then my mother tells Bootsy and me to play in my room. I try to get Bootsy interested in my book about turtles, but Bootsy hates turtles. "You're a turtle," howls Bootsy, "and I'm a turtle-eating dinosaur." My mother calls, "Play nicely, girls." Bootsy yells, "We are." I can't yell anything. It's time for the Barkers to go home. "We'll be back tomorrow," says Mrs. Barker cheerfully. I tell my mother I don't like playing with Bootsy Barker. My mother tells me I have to learn to get along with all kinds of people. I get to bed and dream that Mrs. Barker moves far away and takes Bootsy with her. But Mrs. Barker and Bootsy never go anywhere except the park, the grocery store, and our house. "It's so nice you girls can be friends," says Mrs. Barker as Bootsy leads me to my own room. I let Bootsy look at my pet salamander, Charlene. But Bootsy hates salamanders. "You're a salamander," screamed Bootsy, "and I'm a salamander-eating dinosaur." Mrs. Barker knocks on the bedroom door. "It's time for Bootsy to go home. Tomorrow," says Bootsy, "you get to be a worm." That night, I dream that Bootsy accidentally falls off the edge of the world. I try to save her, but it's too late. In the morning, my mother says she has a wonderful surprise. Bootsy will be staying overnight at our house while her parents are in Chicago. I picture Charlene and me being rushed to the hospital with dinosaur bites. When my mother asks me when Bootsy and I would like for snack, I can't stand it anymore. "Bootsy Barker is a dinosaur. She's planning to eat me alive." My mother was surprised. She tells me to tell Bootsy that I don't want to play that game. I go to my room to think it over. Charlene and I spend the morning inventing a new game. The doorbell rings. It's the Barkers dropping off Bootsy the dinosaur. "Hello, little worm." I stand up, look Bootsy in the eye. "Pardon me, Bootsy, I am not a worm. I'm a paleontologist. Do you know what they do? They hunt for dinosaur bones. Would you like to play?" Bootsy runs out the front door. She wants to go with her parents. Mrs. Barker says Bootsy will have more fun if she stays at our house. Bootsy throws a tantrum on the sidewalk. So Bootsy's parents took Bootsy to Chicago, which means I don't have to wish Bootsy takes a rocket to outer space. Although, if she does, it's fine with me. Hi, my babies. Welcome back to your second day of e-learning. Oh my goodness. Day one, out the way, done and over. We are now working on day two. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So yesterday we talked about retelling a story, right? And we talked about how the elephant got a longer nerve. We talked about how the elephant got his longer nose, right? And he went to a pond or a river, and an alligator bit his nose, and the alligator would not let his nose go. And so his nose grew longer and longer and longer, like Pinocchio, just grew longer and longer. And he realized, like, oh my gosh, I hate my nose. Like, oh my God, I hate it. But when he noticed, like, oh my God, there is so many other fun things that I can do now that I have a longer nose. Like, I can reach up in high branches. It's easier for me to take baths. And so we found out that beginning, middle, and end, which we actually worked on beginning, middle, and end all school year long, almost in every single story Miss Norris has ever read, or that Miss Norris has ever played you in class. And so we should kind of be familiar with beginning, middle, and end. Remember, we used to use post-it notes and write a B at the top, or an M at the top, or an E at the top, and B stands for beginning, M stands for middle, and E stands for end, right? And Miss Norris always says, write down what happened in the beginning of the story. And a lot of times we would kind of get answers and we're like, it did happen, but that may not have happened in the beginning of the story. So we want to make sure that when we are retelling a story, that we are paying attention to what happened and when it happened, right? So for an example, what could I bring up that's recently happened? When you were born, you're not going to say in the beginning, I was 8 years old in second grade. Nope, that's not true. That did not happen in the beginning. In the beginning, you were born to your mom and your dad, and you grew up and became a second grader. You didn't start off life in second grade. I mean, who does that? In the end of the story, I was in my mom's stomach. It's like, no, that is not true. That happened at the beginning. That did not happen at the end. So we have to make sure that when we tell a story, we are telling it when it happens, okay? So for an example, the elephant story, Miss Norris wrote things that are important that happened in the beginning, things that was important in the middle, and things that were important in the end. So in the beginning, I said that the elephant went to a pond and an alligator grabbed his nose and he would not let his nose go. That was probably the most important thing that happened in the beginning, because honestly the story was kind of short, so not much really happened in the story. But I'm not going to say in the beginning there was an elephant and that's it. It's like, okay, anything else you want to say that actually helps us with the plot? And remember, plot is the events of the story. What happened in the beginning, middle, and end. That's the plot. So I'm not going to just say in the beginning there was an elephant. Okay. In the middle, there was an alligator and an elephant. Okay. In the end, the elephant liked his nose. We need more information. To remember that when we are retelling a story, we also have to remember SWBS. And remember, that helps us summarize. So when we think of summarizing or retelling the story, let's think of SWBS. S stands for somebody. Who is the somebody? It's the character, the main character. Well, who is a main character? Main character is who the story is mainly about. And in the story, it was the elephant. He was the main character. Somebody wanted. Well, in this story, he wanted to just have a drink of water, right? So somebody wanted, but there was a problem. The problem was that an alligator ended up biting his nose and he would not let go. So somebody was the elephant, wanted. He just wanted to have a drink at the pond. But the alligator was there and he grabbed his nose. So, the last S stands for so, and that means what was the solution? Right? So the solution, or what ended up happening, was that his nose grew longer and he was able to do great things with it. So summarizing the story, S stands for somebody, W stands for wanted, B stands for but, there was a problem, and S stands for solution. How was the problem fixed? And of course, hopefully you do have your pencil and paper handy dandy. Handy and dandy sound the same, so they rhyme. You should have a pencil and a piece of paper or something to write with. And what I want you to do is I want you to think of a story in your brain. I want you to think of a day where you had the bestest, fantasticest day of your life. And those words are not real words, okay? I want you to think of a day where you had a blast. It was just a great, fantabulous day. It could be in school. You could have went to a birthday party. You could have went to a friend's house. You could have went to Starbucks and had coffee. Just think about the best day you've ever had. And I want you to think, was it really a good day? Okay, and if it is, I want you to write down 3 of the most important things that happened on that day. 3 important things that happened. Write it down. I'm going to give you about 1 minute. So now what I want you to do is those 3 things that you wrote down, I want you to order them by what happened first. Okay? So number 1 would be the first thing that happened that day. You will write a number 2 next to the second thing that happened that day. And number 3, you will write number 3 next to what happened last on that day. So out of those 3 things that you wrote down that was the most important thing that happened on that day, I want you to put a number 1, number 2, or number 3 to what happened first, second, and last. Think about it. Now you're going to get into your second lesson. Make sure you reread, make sure you underline important things in the story, all right? And you read your story, and then you're going to answer questions on the next page, all right? And so remember, try to do this without a parent or your siblings. And then when you kind of get stuck and you need some help, then you can ask somebody, okay? So once again, Miss Norris loves you. I'm here for you. Any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments or send me a text. All right. Catherine, she's been messaging me on Facebook. Get into your lesson, read your story, answer the questions, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.